Good morning. This is Ling Ling with Anne to Walk and Talk that I do every weekday morning. There's a lot that I talk about. It's been a really cool journey to do these live walk and talks. I just come to this park. There's like a loop, goes around and around, and I just walk around and around, and we talk about whatever's on my heart. Today, we're talking about shame. The shame monster decided to show up last night and totally ruin the evening. It's got me pretty pissed, by the way. And I fought it all night, even in my sleep. Wolf cup, it stinkers all over me. And I'm going to bust its chops today. We're going to talk about shame and what it does, what it looks like in your body so you know when it's happening. Whew, going to be a good day. Most of us resonate with shame. It's what our parents use as motivation. I shamed my kids, into good behavior. Why do you think you did that? You should have known better. I can't believe you, all of that kind of stuff. And so we resonate with it. It's so easy to pick up on that vibration, and it feels familiar. It feels like a blanket because it's so familiar. It's not comfortable, like a scratching blanket. It feels familiar. We pick it up, we run with it, we play with it. So when is the last time you felt and were able to acknowledge that shame? So, like I said, without going into detail, I'm going to try to graze the surface, and that is because I want to protect just some tender things that I need to. We're not resolved on some stuff. So, first of all, I had an absolutely brilliantly fantastic, awesome weekend. Tom took me out. He had planned this like a month or so ago, and we both looked forward to it. We went and saw Luke Bryan in concert, but we also, because Tom has enough point, we also got to have a private, semi-private, there were like 40 people there, little pre-concert thing. I meet up and interchange with him, which was kind of fun. It was really fun. And I felt happy and lighthearted. It's been a while since I felt really, really lighthearted. I totally felt lighthearted. I felt playful. I felt special. It was just really, really beautiful. It was just such a great time. And then on the way home from that, Tom and I listened to something that we've listened to separately. And as we know that there are things that are brought up in it that we kind of need to talk about. And we did. And I was able to emotionally regulate enough to hold still while he shared his perspective on some things. His perspective is not my perspective. And I have discounted his perspective as not valid. I've made him wrong for what his perspective is for years and years. And I took some really deep breaths because shame kept trying to jump on in my leg. It kept wanting me to get defensive and literally defending my perspective when I hadn't even heard his. And I was able to stay at about a 3. I was very aware of what I was feeling, but I was also hearing him. And I was speaking very slowly. And at one point, he goes, "You're not saying much." I go, "Yep." But I thought to myself, that's what listening is, right? Not sharing. And it changed something. We felt very connected. I think he felt seen and heard, which was beautiful because he opened up and was happy all day long. And it was fantastic. I felt accepted. I felt seen and heard and not judged or criticized for things that I was doing. And it was beautiful. It was great. So I'm going to go with this one. I know that is possible for us. Tom and I are so completely different that our perspectives very rarely line up. And what I discovered is that they don't have to line up We just have to hear each other's perspective. So I was thinking about it, about perspective quite a bit, and about how I can be looking out a window, say upstairs, and he can be looking out a window downstairs. And we both have a different point of view. Our viewpoint is very different as we're looking at the exact same thing. And I'm not wrong in what I'm seeing. If I were to be upstairs, I would see the awning. It's right outside my bedroom window. He would not see the awning, he would see the porch. And he's not wrong for seeing the porch. And if we can pause long enough to say, okay, what are you seeing? What am I seeing? That's interesting. I didn't know there was a porch. I didn't know there was an awning. Sharing that perspective. So, one of the things that I peeled apart also this weekend was that why is it so hard to hear someone else's perspective? And the thought that came to me, I haven't developed this all the way, but the thought that came to me is the way that we talk to our children. We tell them to do something and then they start doing something else. And they said, hey, hey, did you hear me? Did you hear me? I said this. You need to do this. Or you say, you are not listening to me. And what that means is you're not doing it my way. I'm telling you what to do, and you're not doing it. And so I think it's in the shift conscious mind, there might be a little bit of some hijacking going on where if I actually listen to you and what matters to you and what hurts you, then that means I'm supposed to cave into that. I'm supposed to do what you want me to do just because you shared. I know I've been caught up in that. So I think that I don't want to share my perspective or his perspective. I don't want to find out because if I find out what it is, then I'm responsible for making him happy because now I know. So instead, I want to share my perspective and get understood so he knows exactly what I'm thinking so he can do what I would love, what makes me happy. I'm really thinking that that whole did you hear me and you're not listening is somehow programming something about us being able to take perspectives and see the different window vantage points, right? Because we call perspective a point of view. That means that my eyes, my experiences, things that I've learned, um, things that I hold dear are different through my eyes than someone else's. So the big thing is that you actually don't know what someone else's perspective is because you're not sitting behind their eyes. And the only way to know their perspective is to listen and say, I want to see. In other words, I want to come to your window and I want to peer out with you. Can you show me your view? And vice versa, I would love for you to come so that you can see my view. And sitting and not explaining your view can get really nerve wracking, especially when it's one sided. When you are willing to walk into someone else's view and hear and see and suspend, and for me, not correct some of the perspective, some of the feelings that he had about what he was seeing, he was assuming some of my perspective, and it wasn't my perspective. And so, as a questioner, I really want to correct that. I want to correct it really quick so we can actually get down to truth. And I am learning and have learned that that is not appropriate. I just need to sit and have him explain all the things that he's seeing through his eyes. So, Shame Monster last night. We had such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful weekend. And I'd had a great day. Lots of thoughts were flowing, lots of writing being done, lots of preparing. And it was beautiful. I had said earlier in the day that I would like to empty my closet, which I have not done. and I would like to maybe set up the Christmas tree, which we had not done. And it's because thoughts were flowing. And when thoughts are flowing, I need to stay in that vibration and I need to let them flow. And everything else kind of needs to take a back seat because then I don't get writer's block. I can just let things flow. And that was happening most of the day. Well, Tom got out the Christmas tree, this artificial tree. Now, step one, I am not an artificial tree girl. I love the real stuff. I have always loved the real stuff, and it's really magical to me. With all the chaos in my family, all of the dysfunction and yuck, there are a few things that are safe and important. And one was the Christmas tree. My mom's birthday is December 15th. And that was the day that we would decorate the Christmas tree and we'd make it a family event. We would have a special dinner together. Everybody suspended all of their crap. And we would take out ornaments. We talked about the ones that we liked when we were little. And oh, I remember this one. And we'd have this nostalgic thing. And we all felt just united. It's always been a magical thing. When we were in North Carolina, we found out we could cut down trees. So we went to this magical Christmas tree farm up in Pennsylvania. We found these places where it was like a Christmas village with all these Christmas trees, and they were fresh and they were beautiful. One year, we had this huge, huge house, great big 20-foot ceilings, and Tom actually had the tree delivered on a flatbed truck. Magical. That's what I always wanted. I don't like artificial trees. Last year, Tom's stepmother passed right around Thanksgiving. So we flew out to be with his dad. And by the time we came back, it was just 1 week before Christmas. The year before that, we had gotten a tree. And by the time I decorated it, it was dead, like needles falling off. And there was a big thing about it. Here, for me, the experience of getting the tree is magical. And for Tom, it's work. It's an annoyance. He really doesn't like it. And I have kind of ignored that for a really long time. So yesterday, this tree that we had last year, Tom's dad gave it to us. And I was so grateful that we had a tree last year because going and getting a real tree was not possible 10 days before Christmas. They were all gone. Oh, or dead. So I was very grateful. I like great big huge trees. I like to feel like I am a little girl again. The magic of looking up into the branches. There is a beautiful memory thing that gets triggered in that. So this tree actually had to be put on top of a coffee table to have any kind of height to it. It's not very full. And last year I was grateful because we actually took it on an airplane. So, it wasn't great big huge. It wasn't too heavy. We could carry it around. And I was really grateful for it. So I kind of tried to make myself be okay and say, well, we had it last year and it was okay. So it's going to be okay. So I said, I want to put the tree up. Well, Tom was so excited. And he went and he put the tree up. And I came out of the room where I was writing and I saw it. And it was scrawny. And it was leaning. Okay, I'm just going to feel. And I felt the loss of magic. And so I came over to it and I kind of tried to straighten it up. And he goes, yeah, we'll do something with it. And he was just really happy. He'd had such a happy day, just feeling all good and everything was great. And I had all this rush of shame, negative stuff. All of the negative stuff that has surrounded Christmas trees. Instead of the good magical stuff, it showed up. And man, it came fast and furious. And Tom spoke his appreciation. I so appreciate that you're willing to do this. And I something snapped in me. And I said, okay, but I'm not okay. I'm not okay with this. And then blah, I threw up a shame bomb. Bam, slapped him right in the face. I was across the room, but I might as well. And our whole night was destroyed. There are some things that surrounds the Christmas tree that need to be spoken. Just like there were things that Tom needed to speak to me and have his perspective weighed in and taken. And there are some things that I have hidden and not spoken year after year after year that came bubbling up. And I even said, I said, it surprises me how strong the emotion was and how little emotional regulation I had. I mean, I just blah, shame bombed. And I tried to fight it. You know, shame came in to the house, wasn't invited. We were lighthearted. We were having a good time. And it just showed up. And then it decided to speak back and forth to us. It reminded me of all of the struggle and all of the times I felt guilt and shame for wanting a real treat. And he felt something. I don't know what, because I'm not going to speak for him. And this is one of the things I know. Tom is never my enemy. And shame, if you watch like old cartoons, they got a ball of energy and they go, or that blast people and they get thrown back. It's like the bully has got shame as the secret energetic weapon. Bam, it can blast and it can just jack you up. So we both went to a 4. I tried to pull it back. I pulled myself back to a 3. Tom stayed in the 4. And we've given each other permission, like I said before. We have come to an agreement that at a level 4, we are not going to talk. It's not going to be productive. So we tried. He explained he was having a physical response to shame. We'll talk about that in a second. Physical response to the shame. And he wasn't in the ability to listen to anything that I was saying. And I recognized that, and I gave him the right to pull back. What it did to me, all this energy, and it silenced me. And so to try to figure things out and honor Tom, he did a great job. He did so well of going upstairs and trying to get out of the situation. He's got like an eye mask that does like massage and music. And he sat and put that on to try to bring himself down into a different space. And I had said, I think we just need to watch a movie tonight and maybe talk about this later. And he was honoring that. He did a great job. And while he had the eye pack on, he reached out and I grabbed his hand and we sat there. And it was like, we're not okay, but we're always okay. We're always okay. So we held each other's hand, and I had gotten out a journal because I felt like I was going to explode. Like it was like, you know, on Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the girl who eats the blueberry, you know, and she gets really, really fat. In fact, the emotions in me were building up so much that I had to release somehow, but I had agreed not to share what was happening with Tom. And so I wrote. And I free wrote whatever came to my mind, pen to paper. I just wrote. And because of that, I wasn't actually present with the movie. I just wrote. And I started to cry. And I was keeping that in my own self. I wasn't doing, see how you've made me cry. I was just letting emotion out because that was the thing. I needed on a tire, you know, the gauge. I needed a little bit of the air let out of me. And part of that was the tears. And so I just kind of let myself cry. Then shame showed up, I'm assuming, with Tom, that I was upset and crying. And why? Because he loves me. But shame told him all sorts of stuff about him, and I didn't say it. I was keeping stuff in. And so we went to bed and didn't say much. And I woke up and Tom had left the room. Not a hug. A lot of times he'll get up and he'll hug me in the morning, but I'm still sleeping. There's no hug this morning. And I went, oh, shame's still here. Shame's still here. Here's what I know. My Savior has fought this demon. And what he did in the garden was he used forgiveness, love, and gratitude, that triad, and he expelled from his soul, his body, his physical frame. He expelled every negative lower vibration emotion. He used love to do it. He used gratitude. He used forgiveness. And he knows how to help me out of this shame. Here's the big thing. I am responsible for my shaming response. I'm responsible to be aware that it's happening. I'm responsible to know when to shut it down so it doesn't do more damage. I am responsible to speak things appropriately at the right time when shame isn't around. Because there's still stuff that we need to hash out. My question to you is, do you know what shame feels like in your body? Like, can you name it? Because there's a physiological response that happens. What I witnessed from Tom is, and this is what happens, immediately his blood pressure goes up, he gets a headache, and he's tired. Like I stepped on an air hose and whoosh, or not me. There's other times where he's shamed and he deflates. And there's an anxiety thing, and it's because of not knowing what or how to do it, like not naming it, not knowing how to regulate it yet. I go into silence when I've got shame. I feel like imploding, like I want to hide, just hiding when there's shame thrown at me. So I'm curious about you. When you feel shame, what physical sensations? Some people get like tunnel vision, some people get sweaty palms. And depending on how strong the shame is, it might be subtle, but when it's kind of a bigger shame, do you know what it looks like and feels like? All right. Brene Brown, brilliant researcher. She talks about the things that take shame out. Well, what festers it is secrecy, silence, and judgment. So that's absolutely 100% true. Last night, secrecy and not speaking was festering more and more and more of that shame. There was self-judgment. Tom felt judged by me. I felt judged by him. Just on the backside of one of the best weekends we've had, bam, he tries to tell us it's hopeless. I like to feel like, guess what? We nailed it. We nailed something really great. I sat instead of in shame of what he was speaking to me about his perspective and things that bothered him. Rather than sitting in judgment of him or myself, I didn't let shame creep up. I kept it at bay. I took the shame that was there while we were in the car and I went like this. And I said, I'm not doing you right now. I'm listening. I'm listening. I stayed present. I didn't judge him. I honored what he said. I was able to say, I can totally see why you feel this way. That's empathy. Like if I were viewing things from that same perspective, those feelings are what I would feel. Yes, I can totally see why this has been something that you've been hanging on to for a really long time with that perspective, like I see it. That is called empathy, when you can show up and say, I understand what this feels like. That takes secrecy, silence, and judgment. Bam! It like puts a fire extinguisher on that petri dish. It makes it so it's not possible it takes it out. And last night, the best we could do was witness the wounds of shame for each other and not inflict more. And I'm going to call that a win. We're not really explosive fighters. In fact, if anything, we stay very surfacey so that we don't go into those deeper places where the wounds are. And we've actually been able to have a really great relationship. But it's kind of time to go deeper. And kind of gets rough here and there. But I, right now, have Christ's gift of gratitude. I am grateful that my husband, although wounded, sat and reached out and held my hand. Good man. I am grateful that he tried to stay with me. Like, even though he had a headache, he was kind of trying, but I knew he was shut down. So I was trying to speak some things and it wasn't landing and he wasn't accepting and he was already in a spin. And yet he was willing to go in and take the bullets. And I'm grateful for that. I have never received the silent treatment from Tom Ferguson. And that is a huge deal because if I ever spoke anything that was not okay for me, and I was just speaking my truth of, hey, this is feedback, this doesn't work for me. In my previous marriage, I would have the silent treatment for probably 3 days. So just the courage to say, hey, I need to share something that bothers me about what you've done is like facing a lion courage for me. And he honored that, but couldn't face the lion with me. And I am grateful that even last night, he went to bed a little bit early, shut down so that we didn't talk. He wasn't ready. I honored the fact that he wasn't ready. But I kind of reached out to him. He reached out to me and held his hand as I went to sleep. I am grateful. So grateful for that. That is like gold. Because I've had the opposite where there's absolutely no indication that I still like you, even though I'm wounded. So today, empathy for myself, surrounding myself with God's love, with his perspective, helping me see what I need to see, helping me stand what I need to stand. For a while last night, I didn't take on the shame of I shouldn't have said that. I didn't apologize. I apologize for the way that things were spoken, but usually I would apologize and say, I shouldn't have ever said anything. I'm so sorry. I rocked the boat. And that's what shame wants me to do. And so instead of doing that, I said, I think there's a kind of catastrophizing over a big area. I'm talking about a small area. And I don't like the way I said this. But I didn't take back that there's something that bothers me, right? That's progress, guys. That's real progress. So I don't know what the end result is. I don't know how this helps you or doesn't help you. Know that you're on the right track when there's a storm. And we can fight it. Empathy is going to crush it. I have empathy in my heart. I know what it feels like to not be able to speak because I'm spinning. That is where my husband was. And I have empathy in my heart. I know what that's like. And I can not judge. I can have empathy for me. I didn't receive my perspective being taken and witnessed without shame being in the way. And I can have empathy that hurts when I'm not heard and when I'm not seen. And when we're trying to grow a relationship, I can have empathy. I can say, I don't know what to say right now. I'm just really, really glad you told me. And that's kind of how I responded with a headache. I appreciate that I know that you are spinning. You're not in a place to hear. That is some pretty big stuff that we can do for each other, guys. So I don't have a resolution on this. I don't have a great big nugget. The biggest thing I want you to take from this is call shame out when you see it. If you're at a level 4 or 5 spin, tap out. Use your body to get out, out, out. Ask God to show up for you in empathy and care and teach you what the next step is to move past the particular shame beast. He's fought him, guys. He's fought him and he's won. You're not alone. We don't speak shame. We don't speak what's happening. And so we think we're the only ones. It's not true. Shame is universal. The bullying is universal. And then not having the silence and the secrecy about it, it's what's going to bust it out. So thank you for being here, everyone. I appreciate you. I appreciate so much for you being here. All right, thanks. We'll see you tomorrow and have a wonderful, wonderful day. See ya.